Hello, everyone, and welcome again to Minimalist Gourmet, where today I'm going to be teaching you how to make the classic and absolutely delicious Salisbury steak. Let's get started. I've already minced up 2 cloves of garlic as well as a small bunch of parsley. This next step might seem a little untraditional, but stick with me here for a second. We'll be grating 1/2 of a white onion on this box grater so that we can add it later to our meat mixture. This will create a very nice, fine, smooth texture in our steaks. If you don't have a box grater, no worries. Simply dice very fine 1/2 of the onion. The other half of the onion will be chopped into slightly larger pieces. This will be added to the gravy and soften up nicely. It will also give a nice contrast of the texture and the flavor between the steaks and the gravy. With all of our vegetation chopped and prepared, let's move on to making our panade. If you're not familiar with what this is, a panade is simply something like a cracker or a bread that is soaked in a flavorful liquid. This is a great way to add flavor, moisture, and texture to your finished product. I'm using rice crackers to keep this gluten-free, but feel free to use saltines, Ritz crackers, breadcrumbs, even some stale ripped up bread. For a liquid, I'll be adding milk. Again, there are a lot of options. You could use milk, you could use water in a pinch, some wine, chicken broth. Let your mind wander. If it sounds good to you and something that you like to eat, go ahead and try it out. Whichever ingredients you choose to use is fine. However, you do want to make this early enough that it can sit for a good 5 or 10 minutes and allow all the moisture to be completely absorbed. Moving on to the star of the show, let's take a look at the beef. Funny enough, for a dish called Salisbury steak, this is actually made with hamburger. For the best flavor and texture, I recommend going with a ground beef that has at least 10% fat. You can go as high as 15 if you'd like. I don't recommend going very lean, although it certainly will work. And of course, to this we'll be adding a very generous dose of salt, as well as some black pepper and some powdered garlic. Bringing in more flavor, texture, and moisture, toss in the grated onions from earlier, as well as the small bunch of parsley that we chopped up. For that deep, rich umami flavor, add in a few dashes of Worcestershire sauce. Taking a look at the panade, it's been sitting for about 10 minutes as I form the rest of the mixture. Notice the breadcrumbs have completely absorbed all the milk and it's created a nice paste. This will work great. Let's go ahead and add it into the beef and vegetable mixture. And the final ingredient for our meat mixture is going to be a single egg. Go ahead and crack that bad boy in and let's get to mixing. When it comes to mixing this up, that's where some people make a mistake. People tend to overwork the mixture and be way too aggressive with this. I like to use just the tips of my fingers to gently mix everything together as I rotate the bowl, folding it in on itself. The more gentle you are, the better texture that your final product will have. I recommend just taking a few extra minutes here to mix this slowly and with a little bit of care. Trust me, your efforts will be rewarded. You're looking to just integrate everything together and nothing more. What you have here is essentially a meatball mixture. Okay, so think about it that way. You don't want to overwork the mixture. You're looking for everything to just come together nicely so that you can form a patty. And that's it. This video is almost in real time to give you an idea of how little mixing you really need to do. With everything mixed up, I'm going to simply use my hands to divide this mixture into 4 portions, and then I'll begin to start forming the patties. Again, as we form the patties, keep in mind that you are really trying to be gentle with this. You do not want to overwork this and really get aggressive and squeeze. Simply use your hands to gently form it into a hamburger patty style shape and go from there. This is a traditional shape of a Salisbury steak. Not sure exactly why they made them this way, but hey, that's the way they make them. You can make them round, square, oblong. The shape doesn't really matter, but what does matter is that each is the same size. That way they all cook and finish cooking at the same time. If you've watched my videos before, you know my motto, pick a size and stick with it. Make the other portions of patties the same size and let's get on to cooking. Place a frying pan over medium to medium-high heat and add a little bit of cooking oil into the bottom. As the oil comes up to temperature, make sure to completely cover the bottom of the pan, and then let's begin by placing our patties into the hot oil. Salisbury steaks are generally cooked using a 2-step cooking method. This is the first step, in which we place the patties into the hot pan with the oil so that we can brown them on each of their sides. At this point, we don't care that the patties are uncooked. We're not trying to cook them completely through, we're just trying to brown each side of them. After about 5 minutes of cooking, the patties have started to brown nicely on the first side. This tells us that it's time to give each of the patties a flip. By taking the time right now to brown the patties, we are going to bring a tremendous amount of extra flavor to this dish. Although the patties will continue to cook in the braising process, this initial browning will create a tremendously good crust on the outside and absolutely worth the extra few minutes. Keep in mind that you are not cooking the patties fully at this point, you are simply browning both sides. The patties will still be raw in the center, and that is perfectly fine. They will finish cooking in the second cooking step. Chances are, after searing off your patties, you'll be left with quite a bit of grease in the bottom of your pan. You'll want to drain off most of this, however, make sure to leave 1 to 2 tablespoons of this grease in the bottom of the pan. We'll be using it in the next step of cooking, which is going to be sauteing our onions so that we can start making our gravy. Do not wipe out that pan though. All those little brown bits on the bottom that make up that fond will add a tremendous amount of flavor as we make our gravy, so make sure they stay. If you like mushrooms, you can add them in right now with the onions. The recipe will not change moving forward. Go around scraping up all that fond off the bottom of your pan. You're looking to sweat your onions on a medium to medium-low heat. After your onions have sweat for about 4 to 5 minutes, add your garlic in and continue cooking for an additional 1 to 2 minutes. With our garlic and onions nice and soft, now we add in our beef broth. Here I'm adding 2 cups of water because I will be adding water with a separate beef bouillon powder. If you're using beef broth, simply add 2 cups. For a bit more richness and depth, adding in a couple of drops of Worcestershire sauce. Give all these ingredients a nice mix because this will form the base of our gravy that we will continue to cook in. In order to thicken our gravy, we'll be using a slurry. This is nothing more than a mixture of water and cornstarch. Make sure that you mix up your cornstarch very well in your water so that it's not lumpy. Add your slurry mixture little by little to your gravy base. Make sure to mix it really well as you're adding it to prevent clumps. Also, keep in mind that this mixture must come to a complete boil again before it will thicken. So make sure to give it a moment to come up to a complete boil before you add more slurry mixture. You can make it as thick or as thin as you'd like. Once your gravy is at a full boil again, that's as thick as it will get. It will not continue to thicken as you cook it longer. So once you have reached your desired thickness, place your Salisbury steak patties into the gravy to continue cooking. This is the second part of the cooking process, which is a braise. We'll continue to cook the patties completely through using this method. And oh yeah, don't forget to put all of those delicious meat drippings into that sauce. I like to splash or spoon the gravy on top of the patties as they cook. This braising process will continue to cook the patties until they're completely cooked all the way through in a very gentle and high moisture environment. Give your patties a flip about halfway through their cooking time. How long that will be is difficult to say. It really depends on the size and shape, really how thick your patties are. Each patty will be seared for about 4 to 5 minutes on each side, and then the braising time will run between about 12 to 16 minutes. Again, this really depends on the size and thickness of your patties. You can confirm their doneness with a meat thermometer into the center of a patty, or you can go ahead and cut one open and take a look. You want to make sure that there's no pink left. I'm a bit traditionalist when it comes to this dish. I love to have my Salisbury steak with some nice, fluffy, soft mashed potatoes. Remember that gorgeous gravy that you developed will go fantastically over top of the Salisbury steak as well as those fluffy mashed potatoes. And guys, it is just that easy to make this delicious dish at home tonight. If I've said it once, I've said it a million times. If you can make a hamburger, you can make a meatball. If you can make a meatball, you can make a meatloaf. If you can make a meatloaf, you can make Salisbury steak. Garnish with a little bit of gravy and some extra chopped parsley. It really doesn't need anything else but that. Let's take a quick look at that interior, that beautiful, beautiful texture that we created by not overworking the mixture. Again, try to keep in mind that you're making a meatball essentially here. I really hope you all enjoyed today's recipe and that you try it on your own at home. Let me know if you do down in the comments how it goes. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you had a great day and come back again real soon for another episode of Minimalist Gourmet.